Paper copies of the agenda are available for those here in person, and the full packet is available on our website. Reviewing the agenda, first we'll have our consent agenda. There are 2 items tonight on that agenda. After our consent agenda, we'll have general public comment. We welcome general public comment for addressing issues not on today's agenda, but otherwise related to county business. Given our limited time and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we will apply certain rules regarding public comment. We will do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. First, each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we will accept public comment of any length in writing. Second, speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. 3, all comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the county commission. And lastly, we reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during the public comment period is not allowed. Please give your full name and address for our meeting minutes and address your comments to the commission. Please also know that comments received by the commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comments on the spot, but if you leave your contact information with county staff, we'll try and get specific questions answered. After that, we'll move to our regular agenda. There are 2 items on our regular agenda this evening. We have a blanket purchase order for legal services and a charter resolution to exempt Lawrence Douglas County Public Health from completing sanitary inspections in schools. For each action item, we'll hear from staff or an applicant, followed by questions from the commission, and then open the item up for public comment relative to that item. Once public comment is closed, we'll bring the item back to the commission for further discussion and a vote. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. With that, I'll start with our consent agenda. Commissioners, would any of you like to pull an item from our consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone here at the courthouse? Sarah, anyone online? Okay. With that, commissioners, I'd welcome a motion on the consent agenda.
I move to approve items 1.1 and 1.2.
This is Gene Dorsey. I second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll move on to general public comment. We invite anybody here at the courthouse to provide general public comment during this time.
Welcome to the new room. I guess this is my first time in here. First time I've been able to come across that. Gene, good to see you sitting up there. Eric, I've not met you. The rest of you, we know all about. The 2 of you down here at the end, just a little bit about me. If you don't insult me or try to shut me down or violate my rights, we won't have any problems. The rest of those 3 have, and that's why there's a lot of animosity between myself and them. Tonight, I want to talk about homeless issues because LCS put out a newsletter in February that talked about the number of people that they had housed. And I sent back a request for some more information and asked some questions to be answered about where those funds were coming from to house those people, what kind of voucher program it was, if there was one, things like this, where they had gone wrong in housing before, what had caused houselessness in the first place. I was impressed that I actually got back a response, a body of information that they tried to present, but I was disappointed with the information that I was given. There were, I believe it was 23 or 28 people housed. I didn't bring it with me this evening. This was an unexpected visit tonight, but there were 23 or 28 housed. In any case, there were 10 of those that I was told by staff at LCS that they had been housed without subsidy. And what that means to me is that this person is now living in a apartment that's not rent controlled. It's just out there and they're doing it on their own with no help. And what I want to know is, how did a person go from homelessness to that? And was that person chronically homeless? Because that's the other thing that we don't really think about, is the chronically homeless are the ones that we're wanting to help the most. And what I'm finding out in this response that I got from them, God, you guys, seriously, spend the money and buy a timer. I'm so sick of having to look over there and see a piece of paper that she's had for 2 years holding up over there at me. I apologize. But in the response that I was given, they talk about 3 people that were housed with vouchers. With all the money that we've spent around here, that was all the money that we could find. 3 vouchers, that's all we could do. But I want to turn back to the 10 again. Chronically homeless. There's no way I've been up here for 3 minutes already. Chronically homeless. That's who we need to try to help. And I'm not seeing those numbers coming out of LCS. The only thing that we fulfilled in our agreement as far as committing to ending homelessness and Built for Zero is that we've committed to a plan. We haven't gotten anywhere as far as ending homelessness or doing anything to get Built for Zero.
My name is Dr. Justin Spees. Last week, I submitted a Kansas Open Records request to you guys through your Freedom of Information Officer, who's Carrie Britt, and the request was for the all unedited copies of your guys' previous meeting because you had posted it up online edited. And she denied the request under a couple of reasons, under a couple of statutes she provided. And I got a couple of questions about that. One of the statutes she provided was 45221A30. And that here says that provides an exception for government agencies not to release a recording. And number 30 says public records containing information of a personal nature where the public disclosure thereof would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. So question for you guys, what's personal about these public meetings going on right now? This is a public meeting. It's open to the public. Anybody can come in here. Anybody can view it online as well. What exactly is public about that? And then if you could provide what you're saying is private about that. So if you could provide what is private about that, I need you to explain then on top of that, how that would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. So like right now, for example, is what I'm doing a clear invasion of my personal property? What's private about this? So if you could look into that and then go ahead and educate Carrie Britt that that's not correct. Because if you guys don't correct her, I'm going to correct you guys. And I'm going to get that record, the recording of the meeting, because it is a public record. This whole meeting is open to the public. You can't therefore then say, well, we can't give you the record to the public meeting that took place. So like I said, go ahead and correct her and give me that record. That would be the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Either way, I'm gonna get the record from you guys because it's a open record. The exemption doesn't apply.
Any other public comment here at the courthouse? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay, we'll close general public comment. We'll move on to our regular agenda item and start with a blanket purchase order for 2025 legal services in the amount of $400,000. This is an administration item, so I'll turn it over to Sarah for presentation.
Thanks, Commissioners. I don't have a whole lot more to add to the agenda item. Just wanted to, this was discussed last year when our county counselor changed firms. And so because this particular service is The appointment of the counselor is by county code up to the county commission. That is the decision made by code, so it is not put up to bid from that perspective. So we want the commission's approval for that variance, where perhaps our code doesn't quite match up to our financial policies. And there was some discussion about this last year, so I wanted to put it before the commission and just stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, any questions?
I just had a couple of comments. While the amount seems large, I'm told we just settled a tax case with a big box store where they were seeking back $1 million, and our attorney successfully pursued that to a good conclusion. So the cost benefit would seem to indicate it's good to have lawyers on your side.
Commissioners, anything else on this item? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment.
Reading from your handout here, per finance policy, purchases greater than $100,000 must be either competitively bid or made through cooperative agreements. Since this is a political appointment, I want to pause there. It even says this is a political appointment by the Board of Commissioners. It conflicts with the policy because it cannot be competitively bid. So that is like saying that it's okay since we violate the policy because it's political, or is it saying that it's okay since it's political that we can violate the policy? Because I have some real issues with the fact that we can take a political appointment, and when we're going to pay them, you're going to exempt yourselves from the competitive bidding process. And exactly how many lawsuits has this guy actually been involved in that have prevailed? That I would like, if you could answer me on the post haste or on the backside of this, if you can tell me if that lawsuit was $1 million that he saved us. But the reality is this is a political appointment, and you're exempting yourselves from policies intended to prevent people from cashing in on our tax dollars. And it's hard not to look at this and think that somebody's cashing in. And then when I go to the back of it here, it's interesting. This isn't an agreement signed by you guys that's appointing him. This is an agreement signed by Sarah Plinsky. So is she the one that signs the agreements with your political appointments? Educate me a little on that if I'm wrong, but it seems off that she would be the one signing the contract for your political appointment. But I think the voters should have a problem with political appointments being exempted from the normal processes, the normal open bidding processes. This is a transparency issue, cut and dried. And just because he's John Bullock and he's been around for so many years, that's not an excuse not to competitively bid this. We see attorneys down in Elk County and other counties down in Southeast Kansas that have been around for years and years and years, and they're pieces of shit. We need to analyze this a little bit and look into, is this fair market rate? We're going to pay this. Is this the only work he's doing for the entire year? Because I doubt it. This is just part of his work. So we're going to give him, what, $380 some odd thousand dollars overall, $350 some odd thousand dollars just for the work that he does for the county. And that's not talking about his full-time gig, because he's doing other shit, guys. This is an agreement with the firm, not with that one attorney. We're getting bilked here.
Dr. Justin Spees, I'm suing the county commission here for a couple of unlawful arrests and multiple instances where you guys stopped me from speaking in here, violating my First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment. And I can tell you 100% that John Bullock doesn't appear as your guys' representation, as your defense counsel on that lawsuit. It's an outside contracted law firm representing you guys. His name doesn't appear anywhere in there. And so, he maybe did that, Gene. You might want to look into that if he really was litigating you guys, saving you guys $1 million, you might want to look into that because it's definitely not true on my lawsuit. I don't know if it's true on yours there, Karen, where you're getting sued and then whatever else you guys going on with like some land and the windmills and stuff like that. But my guess is you guys are contracting out to outside attorneys. So what that means is that John Bullock's getting $400,000 for his salary there, which last year you guys said that the expenditures were $363,000. So he's given himself a $47,000 raise. And in his letter, he says that he represents you guys on all litigation, and that's simply not true. As I just demonstrated, he's not representing you guys. So that means the county's going to pay $400,000 for his salary, and then however many thousands of dollars you're going to pay on top of that for the outside attorneys as well. So I think that you need to be a little bit more transparent. We're talking probably, I don't know, close to $1 million. You guys are going to spend in attorney's fees probably with his salary and then all the other outside lawsuits you guys got going on, and that's going to come from the taxpayers, it seems like. So I think you want to be open and transparent about that with the county here, and you're going to want to look in a little bit further because I don't think John's representing you guys. And not only that, he walked you guys into that last year of shutting me down in here and the unlawful arrest. So he's costing the county hundreds of thousands of dollars in his fuck ups. And you guys are going to reward him with a $47,000 raise, which is just a little bit more than what you got, Sarah, as your yearly raise. So and I think that you're using the political appointment as a loophole. What makes the county councilor a political appointment? How do you define that? Is it because you guys are political and appoint him? But I think that should be a neutral, unbiased appointment, not a political appointment. And I think you're using that so that nobody has to bid on it. You're finding a loophole in the language of it, so that way nobody bids on this as well.
Any more public comment here at the courthouse? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay, we'll bring it back to the commission. Comments and/or motions?
I have a few comments. The reason bidding isn't required after the appointment of the county attorney is because at that point it's a sole source. So you can't bid it after that point. That $220 rate that is charged hasn't been changed for 10 or 12 years. If we go out for bid, my guess is the rate per hour is going to go up because I think if you go to Kansas City or even Topeka, you're looking at $250, $300, $350, $400 an hour. Also, John's not getting all that money. There's probably 5 different attorneys at that firm that do bits and pieces of work. And in some cases, our attorney fees are paid by our liability insurance company, and they pick the lawyer on that. So that's why you may be seeing a different lawyer than John Bullock in some of these cases. Also, I've reviewed some of the billings for work, and for January of 2024, John did about 20 hours of work. Some other attorneys at the firm did other work. So if you look at 20 hours a week, the hourly rate, if you divide by 220, is less than having a full-time staff attorney.
Thank you. Just maybe an additional comment or two. I've been very pleased with John's work. I think this purchase contract, this agreement is different than others in that the county counselor serves directly to the county commission to provide us with legal advice. And so in many ways, it's about a relationship. How quickly does John respond? I've had many good conversations with John on some very tricky issues, and those fall under that attorney-client privilege. And so I'm comfortable stepping away from our policy. I understand why our policy is in place, and while we do that, and I can understand that people says, well, why aren't you following the policy? But I do see that this one is a little bit different than some of our other purchasing agreements. Any other comments or motions, Commissioners?
I'll make one other comment. The budget for 2025 is, I believe, $550,000. This contract with Bullock's Law Firm is not to exceed 400,000. We do have other attorneys that are working on various tax cases and so forth. And again, I want to stress, it may seem like a lot of money, but all you got to do is win one or two tax cases with a big box store and you've more than paid for the money.
This is Commissioner Reed. I move to waive the purchasing policy and authorize staff to issue a blanket purchase order for 2025 legal services provided by Mr. John T. Bullock of Seifert, Blumenthal, and Harris LLC in the amount of $400,000.
Commissioner Kelly, I'll go ahead and second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll move on to our next item, which is another administration item to adopt a charter resolution to exempt Lawrence Douglas County Public Health from completing sanitary inspections in schools in Douglas County.
It's going to invite Jonathan Smith, Director of Lawrence Douglas County Public Health, and Shelby or whoever from staff to present this item. Jonathan?
All right. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for this opportunity to discuss our request related to KSA 65202A, which would allow for counties allows for counties to continue exempting themselves from requiring their local health departments from completing sanitary inspections. I do want to note that the Health Board did approve this charter resolution, a draft of our charter resolution at our August 2024 Health Board meeting, so they've seen this as well. I want to start off by saying in the memo and in conversations amongst ourselves and others, we've used the word duplicative to describe our historical involvement with school inspections due to other agencies and regulations that contain more robust and comprehensive assessments of the safety of schools that are supported by an ability to compel a response to an inspection. Rather than our inspection, which has no legal obligations for schools to respond to things that are found when we do these inspections. So looking back on the memo and other communications that we've had, I'll take ownership of this and acknowledge that we probably should have said something different than the word duplicative and said exactly what I just said, which is that there are other inspections that schools participate in that are more robust and comprehensive. So additionally, I do want to point out that KDHE, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, they don't have any guidelines or recommendations for if we were to reach out to them and say, hey, do you have a template that we can use? So they don't have a way for defining that. So we've asked and they'll tell you they don't have anything. And so historically, our inspections have included assessments of building grounds, so ensuring that they're well maintained, free of hazards, garbage is picked up, plumbing, toilets can flush, water temperature is not too hot, general housekeeping, pest control, and playground equipment, which are all areas that we're very confident that are already being assessed by schools or other agencies. Another thing I wanted to note is that in larger counties like Sedgwick and Johnson County, they've already chosen to exempt themselves from conducting school inspections. And the one thing I want to make very, very, very clear to the commission, to anybody who lives in Douglas County, all of our schools, is that this exemption by no means doesn't mean that we will not respond to public health complaints or environmental health complaints that come through via schools. We're 1,000% committed to doing that, just like we do for everything. So if there is something that the school didn't catch in something that they were doing, or if a parent has a concern from a public health standpoint or environmental health standpoint, we're 1,000% committed to responding to those. So I wanted to make that clear that this exemption does not mean that, oh, school, we're not going to respond to that. And we do still do some things already in our environmental health team with the schools. So some of the pools and also childcare licensing. So if they have childcare programs at the schools, those will continue as well. Our thing is we're just trying to make sure that we're efficient with our 2 environmental health staff members that we have. They already spend 80 hours a month on inspections such as swimming pools, septic tanks, tobacco retail, cereal malt beverage retailers throughout the county. And the other thing that I'll say is that if you would prefer for us to create a side-by-side comparison of all of the other inspections that the school does, if there's something that the fire department does, and bring this back to you, we'd be happy to do this. I'm going to invite Shelby up here in a minute to talk about how this has been handled throughout the state for other local health departments. So the reason we're up here is because typically it's been a pretty routine thing for other counties, but we're not like other counties, so we're unique. So you may want to have some discussion about it. So without further ado, Shelby, if you wanted to add some things from a state level, and then we'll hang around in case you have any questions.
Good evening, Commissioners. Like Jonathan said, my name is Shelby Ostrom, and I'm the Policy Analyst for the Health Department. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what's been happening on the state level in terms of school inspections. So the charter resolution in front of you was actually written by the Kansas Association of Local Health Departments and put into Douglas County's format. So other counties, like Jonathan said, particularly, Johnson and Sedgwick counties have already exempted themselves from school inspections, and then smaller counties as well, particularly Seward County over closer to Liberal. All of that to be said, like said, in 2020, prior to 2020, we were able to exempt ourselves from doing school inspections. And then after last year in 2024, we were able to do it again. They had changed it during the pandemic. So I will stand for questions if you have any.
I'll add one more thing to that. And so with those dates that Shelby mentioned about this becoming an option for us to do in 2024. So upon starting and learning that we hadn't actually done some of these inspections since 2020, since the pandemic, one of the reasons we're here is because we wanted to address that. We didn't want to just keep not doing them. If there's a way for us to exempt ourselves from doing them, we'd much rather do that than to just ignore them and not do them. And I will say, they were not very comprehensive. Like I could print this out and send it to you, but it's literally a checkbox and says, well-maintained and free of hazards, things like that. So we'll hang out and see if y'all have any questions.
Thank you, Shelby. Thank you, Jonathan, for hanging out. Do we have any questions, Commissioners? Okay, there's no questions. We'll open it up for public comment. Any public comment here at the courthouse? Online, Sarah? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Comments?
My only comment was it does look like this is a duplication of inspections by more than one agency. So it's always good to eliminate duplication of effort and keep things streamlined, in my opinion.
I would completely agree. I do hear from constituents fairly regularly of wanting responses from our environmental health staff, mostly around septic inspections and things that are timely in terms of new construction or remodel construction. So, making sure that we can free them up from things that aren't of great value for things that are direct constituent services is pretty valuable. So appreciate staff bringing this forward.
I might just make one other comment. In my learning curve of being a county commissioner, I've discovered many archaic state laws that haven't been changed in many, many, many years. And so I think we've got to find workarounds for some of those things.
I appreciate that articulation, Commissioner, and it's a good endorsement for why local control is so helpful to us as a tool. And yeah, I would agree. It's, perhaps our legislators have been preoccupied.
Okay, commissioners who'd like to make a motion.
This is Commissioner Reed again. I move to adopt a charter resolution to exempt Lawrence Douglas County Public Health from completing sanitary inspections in schools in Douglas County.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just a point of order. I understand this has to pass by at least 4 votes. Well, with 3, it was easier, but with 5, do you ever do roll call votes or just yays and nays?
We only do traditionally, or at least in the past, we've only done a roll call vote on the revenue neutral rate because that is required to have a roll call vote. I would say if I hear a nay, I would ask for a roll call vote, if that makes sense.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That ends our regular agenda. We'll move on to appointments. Commissioner Willie, I think do you have an appointment for?
Why, yes, I do. I have an appointment for the Fair Board, and it's Heather Ice. I've had a conversation with her, and she's highly recommended from the Kenwaka Township. So unless anyone would like to have any discussion about that, usually it's up to the commissioner whose district it is, but I would gladly hear from colleagues if you have anything.
Thanks for filling that. Happy to second.
All right, I will make it as a motion. I move to appoint Heather Ice for the Kenwaka Township position to the Fair Board.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then we have 2 appointments needed for the Property Crimes Compensation Board. This came in Sarah's memo. Daniel Affolter, and that we had that application, but we were waiting for one from Wayne Ricks. I want to check in with commissioners if you'd like more time on this. These are usually appointments that are made by the DA, but they're required for us to pass them through, I guess is the best way to put that. Would we like more time or would we like to go ahead with these?
So can I say, I've had multiple conversations with Wayne Ricks. He's interested and on board. I was unaware of any other process other than that we were waiting to hear back from former DA, and I haven't contacted the current DA. I'm comfortable making the motion or supporting him as a candidate for that. But certainly if other commissioners want to see more of a process, if you want to see some application materials, we can get that from him. I know he had not yet heard that he was supposed to turn that in, and that would be on my end.
And I would just say it's not required that they fill that out. We just try to get a little bit of background information in case the commissioners want it.
So these are appointments by the new DA?
No, they are recommended by the district attorney and you will make. the
No, well,
appointment.
that's what I meant.
Yes,
It's
but they
the
have
current
both-
DA.
Yes, they've both been recommended by the current district attorney.
And for my part, I'm very comfortable with Wayne. I think he brings a lot to this role.
Yeah, I know Wayne as well, and I'm very comfortable with that. And I also know Daniel and very comfortable with that one as well.
I believe I know a younger Daniel Affolter who is not this Daniel Affolter, so I will do not have that personal knowledge.
I'll just chime in and say that I'm comfortable moving forward with both of them. I think that at least one of these vacancies has been vacant for a while, possibly both of them. So I'd be comfortable moving forward.
I am comfortable as well.
Motion to appoint Daniel Affolter to the Property Crimes Compensation Board.
I
Second.
second.
Wow, speedy seconds. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Who'd like to make an appointment for Wayne? Or I can make that one. Go ahead.
I would like to move to appoint Wayne Ricks to the Property Crimes Compensation Board.
I'll second.
Go. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Any other appointments, commissioners? Great. We'll move on to commissioner or administrator miscellaneous. We start with Sarah's memo. Sarah.
Thanks, commissioners. My updated memo is on the website and in your packet. We've got some You've got a date coming up this week for the groundbreaking ceremony for DECA for its new transitional housing. There's a couple of different updates attached to this memo, so I want to kind of call attention to each of them, mostly just to see if commissioners want additional information. Sean has put together an update related to the a review for Consolidated Fire District Number 1. We're working with a firm called Emergency Service Consulting International for an evaluation of CFD1 structure, programs, and service delivery and response performance against national standards and best practices. So there's a timeline attached. I asked commissioners to take a look at that, and Sean will be working with CFD1 folks to do that process. We can certainly, once we know more, we'll bring it back to the commission and have a fuller discussion of it, but wanted to make sure you knew that we were underway. Also, there's an update on the Division of Water Resources H&H, so hydraulic and hydrologic and hydraulic assessment of the Wakarusa River corridor. So there's an update there. So we've been talking about that related to our open space plan and our Wakarusa study. So I wanted you to see that. We also, I'm going to talk about the next one and then skip to this one. There's also in December 16th of 2024, the Health Board approved several proposed amendments to their bylaws. According to their bylaws, they need to be submitted to the City and County Commission for review, not necessarily approval. So in your packet is a copy of their bylaws. If you have questions about them, you can certainly let me know or Jonathan, and we can get more information. But from what we understand, it doesn't need formal approval by the Board of County Commissioners. Also attached is an overview of an update on some of our FIFA 2026 World Cup planning. I'm hoping to bring you a more full conversation about this at next week's meeting because I feel like we just haven't had just a conversation to let you guys ask a lot of questions, but things are moving fast. So, we were asked to put together some information for the legislature that's looking to support additional funds. So that is attached along with the press release, and then we will have an update next week to talk more about it, and then perhaps, engaging with our intergovernmental relations folks in Topeka to more fully help represent us on this issue. And commissioners, the schedule, you've got your week 3 legislative report from Little Government Relations and some monthly reports from the Register of Deeds. Next week, we have a work session on our department overview session on sustainability and the Heritage Conservation Council. And then we have updated the appointments with appointments that are going to basically through the first half of 2025. Just want to let you know, we've reached out to those departments that work closely with those advisory boards to ask them for nominations, but just want commissioners to be aware if they've got folks that are interested in serving, you've got a new round of vacancies that'll occur mid-year. And commissioners, that's all I have for you tonight.
Sarah, I had a question on the appointments. Are these that can't serve another term, or is it a mixture?
It's a mixture. There's some folks that'll be eligible for reappointment, so I'll get you that information if they're eligible for reappointment and who that is. But there are there will be some vacancies if we, coming up.
Any other questions for Sarah from her memo? Comments? Okay, commissioners, miscellaneous items that you might have.
I'll just share with fellow commissioners that in the past couple of days, I've been talking with staff and decided to register for NACO, the National Association of Counties legislative conference that's coming up in about a month. So I've gone to some other NACO events over time, mostly smaller peer learning networks of just a handful of counties. This is I'm much more focused on sort of legislative policy recommendations at the federal level. So I don't think that we've had a history of attending that particular conference. And I've been curious about the format of it for a while. So hopefully we'll have some interesting things to report back after the fact.
Just chime in. I'm pleased to serve on the local elected officials panel with Sarah tomorrow for leadership of Lawrence. So I don't think anybody else will be at that, just making sure. But it'll also include other elected officials, including Mayor Dever will be there and Craig Owens. So that's always I know Commissioner Willie has done that panel before. Commissioner Reed, have you done that one? It's always a good discussion and it's great to hear sort of what's going on in the mind of our colleagues. And then unfortunately, I will not be able to attend in person our next meeting on Wednesday. I will be on Zoom. And thanks for Commissioner Reed for chairing our meeting on that day. Sarah, did you have something else?
Well, I was just going to add, Leadership Lawrence is also going to visit the courthouse on the 27th as part of their tour of Lawrence of different places. So we're looking forward to showing off the room.
Great. All right, commissioners, anything else? All right, we're adjourned.